Chosen one. When the phrase enough is used in spiritual or philosophical discussions, it is often treated as metaphorical language. However, across belief systems and historical narratives, there is a recurring idea that prolonged endurance eventually reaches a threshold. At that point, circumstances shift, not because of chance, but because sustained imbalance can no longer remain unresolved. In this framework, the idea that God intervenes when limits are reached is not symbolic exaggeration. It reflects a broader understanding of justice, timing, and alignment. For individuals often described as chosen ones, this threshold represents a transition rather than a reward. It marks the end of extended endurance and the beginning of repositioning. These individuals are frequently characterized by long periods of unseen effort, delayed recognition, and disproportionate responsibility. Their journeys tend to involve carrying burdens quietly, maintaining composure under pressure, and remaining functional while navigating internal strain. This pattern is not accidental. It reflects a period of preparation rather than punishment. What changes when that period ends is not merely external circumstances, but internal permission. The shift begins when endurance is no longer required as proof of worth. The idea that value must be demonstrated through suffering starts to dissolve. This is the moment often described as a reset, not a reset of identity, but a reset of positioning. The individual does not become someone new. Instead, they are allowed to operate without suppression. This transition is often misunderstood by observers. From the outside, it may appear sudden or undeserved. In reality, it is the cumulative result of years spent developing emotional regulation, situational awareness, restraint, and discernment. What looks like a sudden elevation is actually delayed visibility. A defining feature of this reset is the withdrawal from survival mode. Many individuals spend years operating with limited margins, constantly adjusting to accommodate others, managing expectations, and absorbing instability. Survival mode prioritizes continuity over growth. It is effective in crisis, but unsustainable as a long-term state. When that mode is no longer required, a different set of capacities becomes available. This is where purpose shifts from maintenance to expression. The focus moves away from keeping systems intact and toward fulfilling a role that was postponed. For those who have spent years minimizing themselves to preserve harmony, this transition can feel unfamiliar. Growth often requires letting go of roles that were never meant to be permanent. Another consistent element in these narratives is isolation. Many individuals who later step into leadership roles describe long periods of solitude, misunderstanding, or social distance. This isolation is often framed negatively, but its function becomes clear in hindsight. Separation creates independence of thought. It reduces reliance on external validation and forces internal calibration. During isolation, individuals develop the ability to self-regulate without reinforcement. They learn to evaluate situations without consensus, to remain steady without applause, and to persist without reassurance. These traits are not commonly developed in environments of constant affirmation. They emerge in spaces where clarity must come from within. This process produces a particular type of leader, not one driven by popularity or approval, but one guided by internal consistency. When these individuals eventually step forward, they do not need to convince others of their authority. Their presence communicates it. This is not a function of dominance, but of coherence. People sense when someone is internally aligned. As elevation begins, there is often a reversal of previous power dynamics. Those who were overlooked or underestimated may find themselves in positions of influence. This inversion is not about retaliation or recognition seeking. It is about functional alignment. Influence shifts to those who can carry it without distortion. For a long time, many individuals endure silently, believing that restraint is synonymous with humility. While restraint has value, prolonged suppression can lead to stagnation. When expression is withheld indefinitely, potential remains unused. The transition out of silent endurance involves recognizing that visibility is not arrogance, and that contribution requires presence. Stepping forward does not require becoming louder or more aggressive. It requires becoming more accurate. Accuracy in speech, boundaries, and decision-making naturally increases visibility. When someone operates with precision, they no longer blend into the background. This shift often surprises those who benefited from the individual's previous self-limitation. People accustomed to access without accountability may resist the change. However, elevation is not contingent on comfort. It is contingent on alignment. When priorities shift, relationships reorganize accordingly. Boundaries become a central theme during this stage. As individuals gain clarity about their purpose, tolerance for misalignment decreases. This is often misinterpreted as rigidity. In reality, it reflects discernment. When resources such as time, energy, and focus become valuable, they are allocated intentionally. These boundaries are not arbitrary. They are informed by experience. After repeated exposure to distraction, manipulation, or imbalance, individuals learn that not every opportunity is an invitation. Not every relationship is sustainable. Boundaries are not walls. They are filters. A noticeable outcome of this clarity is an increase in internal stability. When fewer external variables influence decision-making, consistency improves. Individuals stop negotiating with their intuition. They no longer rationalize discomfort to preserve familiarity. This results in decisions that appear decisive, even when they are made quietly. Another significant development during this phase is heightened perception. Many individuals describe an increased ability to detect inconsistency in people and situations. This is not mysticism. It is pattern recognition. After repeated exposure to certain dynamics, the mind becomes efficient at identifying them. This perceptiveness allows individuals to disengage early from situations that previously would have caused prolonged strain. Instead of reacting after harm occurs, they adjust before entanglement deepens. This preventative awareness conserves energy and reinforces momentum. As clarity increases, so does protection. Protection in this context does not imply immunity from challenge, but insulation from unnecessary interference. When individuals operate in alignment, fewer obstacles gain traction. Distractions lose influence. External negativity fails to attach. This protective effect is often described as spiritual shielding, but it can also be understood psychologically. When boundaries are clear and purpose is defined, fewer external forces are allowed access. Influence is selective rather than porous. One of the most transformative aspects of this stage is self-awareness. Individuals begin to assess themselves without distortion. They acknowledge strengths without minimizing them and recognize limitations without self-criticism. This balanced self-perception replaces both insecurity and overcompensation. Self-awareness leads to appropriate confidence. Not bravado, but assurance. Decisions are made without excessive justification. Opportunities are accepted without self-sabotage. Progress is pursued without apology. This internal grounding eliminates the fear of loss associated with growth. When individuals understand their direction, they no longer cling to relationships or roles that conflict with it. Letting go becomes an act of alignment rather than abandonment. As outdated connections fall away, space is created for congruent ones. This process is not forced. It happens naturally as priorities shift. Individuals begin to attract environments and collaborators that reflect their current state rather than their former constraints. Resilience also evolves during this stage. Earlier resilience was reactive, the ability to recover after harm. Later resilience becomes proactive, the ability to remain steady under pressure. This distinction is significant. Proactive resilience reduces recovery time because fewer disruptions penetrate deeply. Years of adversity contribute to this strength. Challenges that once felt overwhelming are now contextualized. Individuals recognize that they have survived worse. This perspective creates composure. Problems are addressed without panic. Pressure is managed without collapse. As this internal structure solidifies, influence increases. Not through persuasion, but through example. Others observe consistency, restraint, and clarity, and respond accordingly. Some are inspired. Others feel challenged. Both reactions indicate impact. Influence at this stage is unavoidable. Presence alone communicates stability. Decisions set precedents. Behavior becomes instructional without intention. This influence extends beyond immediate interactions, shaping environments indirectly. Another shift that accompanies elevation is access to resources. These resources are not limited to material gains, though those may occur. More often, they include access to information, opportunities, and support systems that align with purpose. Doors open with less resistance because alignment reduces friction. This is not coincidence. When actions are congruent with intent, outcomes follow with greater efficiency. Effort becomes focused rather than scattered. Energy is invested rather than depleted. As this alignment stabilizes, purpose becomes non-negotiable. It is no longer subject to external approval or internal doubt. The individual does not question whether they are meant to proceed. They question only how to proceed responsibly. This sense of purpose does not fluctuate with circumstances. It remains intact through challenge and success alike. It is informed by experience rather than fantasy. It is resilient because it has been tested. By the time this stage is reached, individuals understand that their journey was not designed for convenience. It was designed for capacity. What they now carry requires preparation. The delay was not denial. It was calibration. As the foundational internal shifts take hold, the effects of this elevation begin to manifest externally. The chosen ones no longer operate solely within the constraints of survival or past limitations. Every decision, interaction, and opportunity is filtered through a lens of alignment, purpose, and clarity. The result is a tangible transformation in the way they navigate the world, one that others perceive even before understanding it fully. Their presence alone signals that a recalibration has occurred. One of the most immediate outcomes of this stage is a redefinition of relationships. Connections that were once habitual or convenient no longer retain their former significance. This is not an act of exclusion, but a process of alignment. Those who were previously central to their daily lives may naturally drift away if they no longer contribute to shared growth or mutual purpose. Conversely, individuals and communities whose intentions align with this new state of being begin to appear more prominently. Opportunities to collaborate, mentor, or co-create increase, and interactions become more meaningful because they are no longer distracted by misalignment or external pressures. The energy of these interactions shifts as well. While the chosen ones do not seek approval or influence, the combination of purpose and consistency naturally draws attention. People respond to authenticity and competence, even unconsciously. Where once effort was required to earn recognition, now influence spreads almost automatically. Those who observe this alignment often feel compelled to adjust their own behaviors and intentions to meet the clarity and focus of the chosen ones. This is influence in its purest form, a quiet, pervasive effect that requires no coercion or dramatization. Material circumstances often begin to reflect these internal changes as well. Resources, whether financial, informational, or relational tend to flow more seamlessly toward individuals operating in alignment. These resources are not necessarily abundant by coincidence, but as a direct outcome of precision in action and intentional decision-making. Opportunities that may have been previously inaccessible or overlooked now become viable and attainable. This shift allows the chosen ones to act on their purpose without constraint, reducing the friction between intent and execution. It is a form of practical elevation that complements spiritual and psychological alignment, demonstrating that personal growth often leads to systemic adjustments in the external world. With this combination of internal clarity and external alignment comes enhanced discernment. The chosen ones develop an almost instinctual capacity to recognize situations, partnerships, and opportunities that support their growth versus those that do not. This discernment is refined over years of experience and reinforced by the clarity that comes with self-awareness. It is not reactionary or rigid, but precise, allowing them to allocate energy, time, and resources efficiently. By identifying misalignment early, they prevent potential setbacks before they manifest, reinforcing momentum and maintaining focus on long-term objectives. Simultaneously, their intuitive capacity expands. Where perception was once limited to observable facts, it now includes subtle cues and patterns that reveal deeper truths about people and environments. This heightened awareness is not simply a tool for personal protection. It is a functional resource that informs strategy, relationships, and decision-making. Recognizing hidden motives, inconsistencies, and potential risks becomes second nature, allowing the chosen ones to navigate complex social and professional networks with confidence and foresight. This expanded perception, combined with alignment and discernment, creates a comprehensive framework for operating effectively in both tangible and intangible realms, in practical terms. This combination of influence, resources, and discernment fosters leadership that is both stable and adaptive. The chosen ones step into roles that require initiative, vision, and resilience, often without formal designation. Their capacity to act decisively while maintaining integrity allows them to lead by example, setting standards without coercion. In professional, social, or communal contexts, their presence becomes a stabilizing factor, encouraging efficiency, focus, and collaboration among those around them. Leadership, in this context, is inseparable from character. It is an emergent quality that reflects internal mastery rather than externally conferred authority. A critical aspect of this phase is the continued development of resilience. While earlier stages focused on survival and recovery, this stage emphasizes sustainability and fortitude. Challenges continue to arise, but they no longer threaten to destabilize. The chosen ones approach adversity with a calibrated perspective, treating each obstacle as data rather than drama. They are able to anticipate complications, respond strategically, and maintain progress even under pressure. This proactive resilience is a hallmark of sustained elevation. It ensures that growth is not merely episodic but enduring. Alongside resilience, the chosen ones cultivate a disciplined approach to self-management. Time, energy, and attention become recognized as finite and valuable resources. Priorities are continuously assessed against their purpose, and commitments that fail to align are deferred or eliminated. This level of self-regulation prevents dilution of impact and ensures that actions are congruent with strategic objectives. In essence, their external life begins to mirror the internal order, producing a cohesive and optimized trajectory that aligns with their elevated state. Importantly, this phase also involves a recalibration of risk. The chosen ones are no longer deterred by potential loss or discomfort if these factors conflict with their purpose. Decisions are informed by clarity rather than fear. This does not equate to recklessness, but rather an intentional assessment of which risks are necessary to achieve meaningful objectives. By approaching risk with discernment, they can leverage opportunities that were previously avoided due to uncertainty or insecurity. This results in accelerated growth and enhanced capability without compromising foundational stability. The consequences of these cumulative shifts extend to the perception and reception of the chosen ones by the wider environment. Influence becomes inescapable, not because of deliberate projection, but as a natural consequence of alignment and consistency. Their decisions, energy, and presence create ripples that affect systems, communities, and networks. Those who resonate with this frequency are drawn closer, often becoming collaborators, allies, or supporters. Those who cannot meet the elevated standard are naturally filtered out, reducing friction and creating a network of mutual reinforcement. At the same time, opportunities for impact expand in scope and scale. With alignment between internal purpose and external circumstances, the chosen ones are capable of effecting change that extends beyond personal gain. Their decisions can influence organizational culture, community structures, and even broader societal patterns. This level of impact is not predicated on formal authority, but emerges organically from competence, clarity, and consistency. It demonstrates that when internal transformation is deep and authentic, the capacity to influence the world follows naturally. This stage also produces a refined approach to strategic planning. The chosen ones begin to anticipate long-term implications of actions, understanding not only immediate outcomes but cascading effects. Their decisions reflect a balance between vision and pragmatism, combining foresight with operational accuracy. This strategic perspective further differentiates them from those who act primarily reactively, enabling sustained momentum and amplified effectiveness over time. An additional dimension of this elevation is the amplification of intrinsic motivation. The chosen ones operate from a source of drive that is internal rather than externally derived. While earlier stages may have relied on approval, validation, or external recognition, their motivation now stems from alignment with purpose. This self-generated drive is more reliable, sustainable, and resistant to distraction, ensuring that progress is continuous and intentional. The cumulative effect of these developments is a life increasingly defined by coherence. Actions, intentions, and outcomes begin to converge into a consistent pattern, reinforcing credibility, influence, and authority. The chosen ones experience a reduction in conflict between internal values and external behavior, producing not only personal satisfaction but observable competence. Others perceive this coherence as competence, reliability, and stability, further enhancing influence without active effort. In this context, abundance becomes a logical extension rather than a byproduct. As alignment, clarity, discernment, and strategy converge, the conditions necessary for tangible and intangible resources become more accessible. Opportunities that once required extensive effort or timing now appear with regularity and manageability. Financial, informational, relational, and structural resources become available in proportion to the individual's readiness to use them effectively. This access is a reflection of optimization. Resources naturally gravitate toward individuals who have positioned themselves to utilize them efficiently. By the time these processes stabilize, the chosen ones have essentially established a self-sustaining cycle of elevation. Internal alignment produces external clarity. External clarity reinforces internal confidence. Influence, resources, and opportunity expand naturally, further reinforcing the system. This cyclical reinforcement ensures the momentum is not easily disrupted and that the elevation achieved is enduring rather than temporary. As this progression continues, the concept of legacy emerges organically. Individuals begin to perceive their actions not merely as immediate problem-solving, but as contributions to a broader, Enduring impact. They recognize that their elevated state enables them to shape environments, communities, and systems in ways that persist beyond immediate circumstances. Legacy is no longer an abstract ambition. It is the practical outcome of sustained alignment, strategic action, and influence. Finally, this stage produces a new form of accountability. The chosen ones are accountable primarily to purpose rather than to external expectations. Decisions are measured against alignment with mission, coherence with values, and potential impact. This accountability is internally enforced and externally validated, ensuring that deviation is minimized without coercion. It reflects maturity and integration, the culmination of prior experiences. Resilience, discernment, and alignment. In summary, this second stage of elevation demonstrates how internal transformation manifests externally. Purpose becomes operational, influence becomes organic, relationships realign, resilience becomes proactive, and resources converge to support the newly optimized trajectory. Every element reinforces the others, creating a comprehensive state of readiness and capability that is visible, measurable, and impactful. By combining strategic awareness, self-mastery, discernment, and alignment, the chosen ones move into a realm where both personal and systemic outcomes are optimized, and their potential for enduring impact is fully realized. The journey does not end here. While Part 1 established the internal foundations, and Part 2 has described the translation of those foundations into tangible results and influence, the next stage involves integrating these dynamics consistently over time. Sustainability, adaptability, and ongoing calibration ensure that the elevation is permanent rather than transient. This marks the difference between episodic achievement and enduring mastery, demonstrating that the elevation of the chosen ones is as much about systemic consistency as it is about initial transformation. As the chosen ones move further into this phase of elevation, the effects of their transformation become not only visible but undeniable. The previous stages have laid the groundwork: internal clarity, spiritual alignment, resilience, discernment, and strategic influence. Now, the focus shifts to sustainability and long-term integration. The chosen ones are no longer merely reacting to circumstances. They are operating from a place of deliberate design, ensuring that every aspect of their life reinforces their purpose and supports enduring growth. At this stage, self-mastery is no longer optional. It has become the central axis around which all other elements revolve. The chosen ones maintain a disciplined focus on their priorities, consistently aligning their daily actions with long-term objectives. Each decision, whether personal, professional, or spiritual, is measured against a standard of effectiveness and contribution. This meticulous calibration ensures that resources, energy, and time are allocated efficiently, reducing wasted effort and amplifying outcomes. Their lives become a reflection of internal order manifesting externally. Coherence, consistency, and clarity become their signature. One of the most profound shifts in this phase is the refinement of influence. Whereas influence in the earlier stages was largely emergent, drawn from authenticity and alignment, at this stage, it becomes deliberate and strategic. The chosen ones understand how their presence, energy, and decisions ripple outward, shaping environments, networks, and systems. They operate with an awareness that every interaction has the potential to inform, inspire, or recalibrate those around them. Influence is exercised with integrity and precision, a subtle, pervasive effect that commands respect without coercion and generates measurable impact without the need for visibility or approval. Resource alignment, both tangible and intangible, continues to strengthen. Financial, professional, and relational opportunities flow toward the chosen ones with increasing consistency. This is not a product of luck or chance. It is a direct outcome of their optimized alignment. By positioning themselves in ways that allow them to utilize resources efficiently, they attract support naturally. Mentorships, partnerships, collaborations, and investments appear not as coincidences, but as responses to readiness and capability. Even emotional and psychological resources such as trust, understanding, and loyalty gravitate toward them, reinforcing both personal stability and operational effectiveness. The result is a life in which internal clarity and external abundance coexist harmoniously, creating conditions for meaningful and sustained impact. Simultaneously, the chosen ones develop a heightened ability to evaluate risk and opportunity in real time. Decisions that once required extensive deliberation are now guided by intuition, informed by experience, insight, and clarity of purpose. They are able to assess both immediate and long-term consequences, weighing potential gains against alignment with mission and values. This balance of foresight and strategic action ensures that their growth trajectory remains steady, while also allowing for adaptive flexibility when circumstances shift. It is the practical application of wisdom earned through years of observation, trial, and deliberate reflection. Interpersonal dynamics continue to evolve in this phase. The chosen ones no longer invest in relationships that dilute their energy or impede their progress. Instead, they cultivate connections with individuals and groups who share alignment, vision, or complementary strengths. This does not imply a rigid exclusivity, but rather a natural process of filtering for mutual reinforcement. As a result, collaboration becomes increasingly effective and purposeful. Trust, clarity, and accountability become foundational, replacing transactional or superficial interactions. These relationships, rooted in alignment, serve as accelerators rather than obstacles, magnifying the impact of the chosen ones' presence and actions. Heightened self-awareness reaches its most sophisticated form during this stage. The chosen ones possess an acute understanding of both internal capacities and external influence. They recognize their strengths and limitations with precision, allowing them to operate confidently without arrogance or overextension. This awareness is not static. It is dynamic, continuously refined through feedback, observation, and reflection. It allows the chosen ones to adapt to new challenges while remaining anchored to core principles and objectives. Decisions are informed by both experiential knowledge and strategic foresight, ensuring that every action reinforces long-term elevation rather than short-term gratification. The chosen ones also gain an unparalleled clarity regarding purpose. This clarity is not theoretical. It is practical and operational. Each step they take is deliberately mapped to contribute to broader goals, and their actions become a manifestation of intent rather than impulse. The sense of mission becomes almost tangible, guiding behavior, shaping priorities, and influencing the allocation of attention. Unlike earlier stages, where purpose may have been emerging or partially obscured, at this phase it is fully crystallized, immutable, non-negotiable, and self-reinforcing. External distractions, societal pressures, or opinions of others are filtered through the lens of alignment, ensuring that deviations from mission are minimized or eliminated. A key component of this stage is the amplification of resilience into strategic endurance. Challenges continue to arise, but they are met with proactive preparation, calculated response, and informed perseverance. The chosen ones no longer experience setbacks as disorienting or disruptive. Instead, they are assessed as data points for continuous improvement. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity for refinement-enhancing decision-making, strengthening adaptability, and reinforcing internal stability. This form of resilience is sustainable and preemptive, ensuring that the chosen ones can maintain their elevated trajectory even under pressure or scrutiny. Spiritual integrity remains central to all decisions. Boundaries are maintained not as barriers, but as instruments of alignment and protection. Situations, relationships, and opportunities are continually evaluated for their capacity to support or hinder purpose. Anything that fails to meet these standards is addressed, either through adjustment, negotiation, or removal. These unyielding standards are not signs of inflexibility, but expressions of maturity and clarity. They safeguard the chosen one's capacity to act decisively and maintain coherence in the face of competing demands, ensuring that spiritual, emotional, and operational alignment remains intact. The chosen one's influence, now fully refined, exerts a pervasive and almost gravitational effect. Individuals, organizations, and communities are subtly recalibrated by the presence and actions of the chosen ones. This influence is organic, arising naturally from alignment, consistency, and the clarity of purpose. People respond to competence, decisiveness, and integrity, often without conscious awareness of the mechanisms involved. This effect magnifies over time. As the chosen ones operate consistently, their impact spreads, shaping systems, environments, and behaviors without overt effort. Influence becomes both a tool and a byproduct, reflecting both the depth of personal transformation and the strategic application of that transformation in the external world. Another element that emerges during this stage is the ability to integrate and manage abundance effectively. With external resources, financial, relational, and informational now aligning with purpose, the chosen ones must ensure that acquisition and utilization are congruent with long-term objectives. They approach abundance with both responsibility and strategic intent. Resources are deployed where they reinforce mission, amplify influence, and enhance operational effectiveness. This disciplined approach ensures that external gains serve as multipliers rather than distractions, reinforcing the integrity of elevation rather than undermining it. The combination of these factors, alignment, discernment, influence, resource optimization, resilience, and self-awareness, creates a self-reinforcing cycle of elevation. Internal clarity produces external alignment. External alignment enhances opportunities and resources. Opportunities and resources reinforce internal stability and resilience. This cycle ensures that elevation is not merely temporary or episodic, but enduring and scalable. The chosen one's growth becomes both sustainable and exponential, producing long-term results that are measurable, observable, and impactful. As elevation stabilizes, legacy becomes a central consideration. The chosen ones begin to act with awareness of how their decisions, influence, and energy contribute to broader systems beyond immediate objectives. Leadership, mentorship, and systemic impact emerge as natural outcomes of sustained alignment. The chosen ones recognize that their presence has long-term consequences, and they leverage this awareness to guide, inspire, and shape environments in ways that align with purpose. Legacy is no longer an abstract goal, but a measurable outcome of consistent, aligned action. At the same time, accountability becomes intrinsic. The chosen ones are accountable primarily to purpose and mission rather than to external validation. This self-directed accountability ensures that deviations from alignment are minimal, and actions remain coherent with strategic objectives. Decisions are evaluated not solely by immediate outcomes, but by long-term contribution to mission, influence, and systemic stability. This approach reinforces both operational effectiveness and personal integrity, creating a model of leadership and presence that is both impactful and sustainable. Ultimately, this final stage represents full integration. The chosen ones are no longer in transition. They have achieved a stable, enduring state of elevated presence. Internal clarity, external alignment, influence, resources, and resilience converge to produce a life optimized for purpose, impact, and sustainability. Challenges continue to arise, as they always will, but these are met with competence, strategic foresight, and internal confidence. The chosen ones operate in a state of consistent effectiveness, their trajectory guided by principles rather than chance, strategy rather than reaction, and purpose rather than preference. In conclusion, the elevation of the chosen ones is a holistic process that integrates spiritual, psychological, and practical dimensions. Internal clarity informs external alignment. Influence and resources amplify both action and impact. Resilience and discernment ensure sustainability. And self-awareness, purpose, and accountability anchor all decisions. This final stage is not about spectacle or recognition. It is about operational mastery, enduring impact, and systemic optimization. The chosen ones emerge not only transformed, but fully prepared to navigate their mission with confidence, precision, and purpose. Through these stages, it becomes evident that elevation is not a singular event but a process, a deliberate, multidimensional evolution. The chosen one's journey illustrates that true transformation requires sustained effort, strategic reflection, and alignment across all aspects of life. Spiritual growth, personal mastery, and external effectiveness are interconnected, reinforcing one another in a continuous cycle that produces enduring results. Those who follow this path are uniquely positioned to influence systems, inspire individuals, and achieve objectives that extend far beyond themselves. This concludes the narrative, capturing the complete trajectory from initial elevation through sustained integration. The chosen one's journey demonstrates that transformation is not only possible, but measurable and systemic. Their progress reflects a combination of internal mastery, external alignment, and strategic application, resulting in a state of holistic elevation that is both powerful and enduring. By the end of this process, the chosen ones have become models of sustainable impact, operational clarity, and elevated purpose, a blueprint for navigating both personal and systemic transformation.